Hey guys, Sneaky Kitty Game Dev here, and in this video what we want to do is we want to set it up so that when we have our overlap, we want to trigger something that damages the player. Now we only want to do this on the server. We don't want this to run on the client, hence why we added the overlap binding only on the server. So because it's only going to fire on the server, we want to make sure we handle our damage dealing here. So what we can do so far is take our other actor, cast it to our tutorial character, and see what we get. And if we get our actor, well, our character, then we want to deal damage to them. So again, the damage system is going to just be very rudimentary, nothing fancy at all. We're basically just going to kill the player. So what we can do is cast it from a actor to a Claymore tutorial character. So if a Claymore tutorial character, it automatically included it up here. Let's just call it character equals cast to a Claymore tutorial character, and we want to cast from other actor. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and close down the editor because I want to show you why it's not going to compile, because there is something that we need to do. So let's go ahead and build. As you can see, it cannot include the Claymore tutorial character generated files. So that's from the Unreal header tool. So what we want to do is, here it is. Go to our build.cs, scroll down to the end of our modules, and we want to include our game module to it. So in this case, we want to just do, I guess better yet, this would probably be a better idea for like an interface or something maybe. But I'm curious, does A actor have take damage? Yes, it does. So A actor has a function called take damage. And because our character is derived from, well, A actor, we can call take damage. So instead of doing what we were initially, I was initially going to do, we're just going to do a check. So if is valid other actor, we want to call take damage. Now here we want to pass in the damage amount. So I'm going to do 100 because I just want it to kill the player. We need to construct a damage event, pass in the event instigator and the damage causer, which in our case is going to be nothing. So really, we don't need any of these. So we're just going to do f damage event, and then null pointer, and null pointer for the instigator and the damage causer. So that included engine damage events for me when I called the constructor for f damage event. Now let's go ahead and print out something that says damaging player and compile. Also, let's remove the include as well. Then compile. Okay, the build was successful, so let's go ahead and run it. And once we confirm that it is firing, we will then go ahead and add the function take damage to our character. All right, go ahead and open that back up. And for now, let's just go ahead and play in the viewport. So I walk past it, damaging player. So we know we're good to go. So let's go ahead and head over to our character and find our protected section. I guess we'll do it under begin play. If we type in take damage, you can see it automatically fill it out for us, and we're overriding it. So remember, take damage is a virtual function, so we want to make sure that we do in fact override the amount. So for the sake of this, float damage is going to equal the parent class or parent call to it, and we're going to return damage. So that's for the most part going to be it. However, I do want to do some other stuff to it. So for example, ragdolling the character, or we could simply destroy the character. I guess probably the easiest route is just going to be to trigger a ragdoll. So let's go ahead and get that set up. And real quickly, why we're actually setting damage equal to the parent call, or the super, is if we look at it really quick, you can see what it ends up returning is the actual damage. So that's basically what we're going to get and what we're going to return. And partially the reason for this as well is, as you can see, being blind as a bat, should have been in here. Anyways, somewhere down the chain, there is the logic. So I'm just going to make the assumption that it's in here for firing off any of the event dispatchers that have been bound to it. So this kind of takes care of all the stuff that we might want to fire or have bound in the future. It just calls it and triggers everything for us. So actually, if we really want to keep consistent, we can set our name to actual damage just to keep consistent with the parent call. So here we do our check. So if actual damage is greater than 0, we do something. So in our case, we want a ragdoll. So I'm going to go ahead and print out or remove our print string and move that into our character here, which means we have to include Kismet and Kismet system library. And we want to try to ragdoll. So here we have our get mesh, set simulate physics, and we just set that to true. I'm not entirely sure what else needs to be set for this to fire off, but I'm going to go ahead and run live coding. But I think that's all that's really needed. All right, and let's give it a shot. So we walk through it, and we ragdoll. So we just went down to Narnia somewhere, and we are good to go. So my guess is that is a collision issue. So let's check our character here. Those are not the classes. There it is. And we can grab our mesh right there and go down to collision. And the collision preset is character mesh. So we're set to ignore pawn and vehicle, but everything else is set to block. So I'm not entirely sure if that has something to do with it or what. But I'm not too worried about it. We just know that, okay, it works. So for example, if we do this as a client, we are going to probably have a little bit of an issue. So here I'm going to watch from the service view on the right. When I walk through it on the client, you can see the client is still correct. He's nice and fine, but on the server view, the client has fallen through. That's because we need to replicate some form of indication that, okay, the player has been killed. So we want to trigger a ragdoll. So this is where an onRep comes into play. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to do everything right in here to keep it kind of sectioned off. We want to set up a replicated variable. So uProperty, and we're going to do this one as replicated using, and we're going to do bool be dead. So let's make our replicated function that we're going to call. So void onRep underscore dead. And we're going to do replicated using equals onRep dead. So basically whenever rep be dead changes, this event here, this function is going to fire. So we can go ahead and create that definition. And if be dead, meaning it's true, we want to simulate physics. Just like that. So what I'm going to do in here is be dead equals true. And then because we're on the server and the onRep is not going to get called automatically like it does in Blueprint, we want to make sure we call onRep dead. So that way it triggers on the server as well. So that'll take care of that. Now we need to set up the get lifetime replicated props. So do not remember, whoops, that'll be get lifetime replicated props. So we can go here and basically copy the whole implementation or definition of the function. And I'll put mine right below begin play. So we can remove all of these like so, and replace a character with our character class, like so, and we're pretty much good to go. So now we just want to replicate our property, so do rep lifetime, and the class is going to be a Claymore tutorial character, and the variable we want to replicate is going to be dead. As you can see, it's still complaining. It's asking us to include net Unreal Network. So if we just go ahead and include net Unreal Network.h, you'll see the complaint goes away. So now be dead should replicate, and it should keep it on consistent between all of our clients. So now I'm really curious if the Unreal header or the live coding in UE5 will, handle this properly. I'm going to be quite surprised if it does, because that'll be a big step up from UE4. So let's try it. Yeah, it actually worked. So when we walk through it, on the client side and the server side, our client just dies. It ragdolls. So what I'll do on the server as well we should see the exact same result on both the server and the client, which we do. So we now have our Claymore, quote unquote, killing our player when we walk past it. That's what we want. Now what we want is basically some sort of effect to happen. So, you don't just walk through the Claymore and it suddenly kills you without going off. You want to have an explosion there. Give the player some sort of indication like, hey, it go boom, So that's what we're going to set up in the next video. So that is going to wrap up this video. If you like what I'm doing and you want to help support me, you can find a link to my Patreon in the description below, where I have a team deathmatch series and a couple other stuff in there. If you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to hop in my Discord and I'll try to help you out.